Hey everyone, it's Bob with another FINOP controller webcast. This week we're going to talk about reserve calculation line 1, customer credits. You can see here there are 9 credit items in the reserve calculation. Number 1 is for free credit and other credit balances in customer accounts. So let's discuss what gets included on this line item, what gets excluded, what's an overdraft, what's the difference between a customer and a non-customer, and how do we make use of estimates? Now, for disclaimers and notes, this presentation is for educational purposes only. It's not legal advice. Also, be aware that new products are being developed all the time. It's up to the firm to determine how they should be reported for the reserve calculation. And also, if a product is not mentioned in the rules, it doesn't mean you can ignore it. Consider how similar products are treated. Also, how to make use of this presentation. One way is to review it versus your firm's calculation and take a look at the items that are included in your calculation as well as this calculation. So what are some common items that are included for line 1 on customer credits? The most obvious one are the balances in the customer cash and margin accounts. Here they can be both US dollar and foreign currencies. Some other ones would be unposted wire items that have yet to be recorded in the firm's books and records. Overdrafts, and we're going to discuss that on another slide. Any dividend reinvestments that have yet to be recorded. Withheld taxes for customers. And escheatment accounts. Escheatment means abandoned, so abandoned customer accounts that will eventually be given to the state. They are still required to be part of the reserve calculation. So, stock record allocations. We haven't discussed this yet, but stock record allocation is just a shorthand way to determine which security contracts are related to customers versus the firm's contract. In some instances, these will increase the reserve deposit. In some instances, they will reduce the amount that's going to be deposited in the reserve account. For this particular line item, there are two we're interested in today. They're the firm long versus the unsecured customer short, and the non-customer long versus the unsecured customer short. And what happened here is that a particular customer has sold securities to the broker dealer and they have yet to deliver it by settlement date. In that particular instance, the firm's already credited the customer for the value of the securities of the contract. However, they have yet to receive the property, the securities themselves. In this particular instance, the rule does not require you to put that money in the reserve calculation. It allows you to reduce the deposit amount, and the way you do it is by subtracting off the value of allocations. So what are overdrafts? And in its simplest form, an overdraft is when you write a customer a check based on the balance in their account. And the particular bank account that you write it off of has zero balance in it, or a ZBA account. This is a bank management or treasury management technique that you'll find most firms are making use of now. And so what's happening there is that you can have a master concentration account and several zero balance accounts associated with it. This allows the firm to make use of or coordinate its business. Say, for example, it wants all customer deposits to go in one bank account and all customer withdrawals to go into another bank account. At the end of the day, the bank will combine the debits and credits from these two ZBA accounts into the master concentration account. And if there's any excess funds in there, then the Treasury Department can then go ahead and reinvest these the way they see fit. All right. If you're going to maintain a ZBA master concentration account relationship, you'll probably want to make use of the funds that are in the master concentration account at the end of the day. And to do that, though, you're going to have a written acknowledgement from the bank that all of these accounts are to be treated as one. And you're also going to have an opinion from an outside law firm that this bank agreement is legally binding, especially related to bankruptcy laws. In addition, make sure that any vendor, payroll, or supplier ZBA accounts are not part of this agreement. Okay, so what's a customer? And a customer is a very broad definition. Really, it's anyone that the broker-dealer is holding funds or securities for, except for non-customers. And so to figure this out, you're going to have to go into the rules. But here are a few examples of non-customers. And you can see there's a lot of asterisks here. So you have to, and they are always pointing back that go back and take a look at the rules and see whether they're to be included or not. In addition, even though someone might be considered a non-customer, you have to take a look and determine whether their particular debits or credits can be or should be excluded from the reserve calculation. Most of the time, you're going to find that the debits are excluded and maybe the customer credits or the credits in the account. You'll have to take a look at. So using estimates. And because of the time factor of getting the calculation done and a deposit made, you're going to have to use some estimates. The example that we used earlier was if a firm is crediting the customer's account on a monthly basis for the interest, if they're paying interest to the customer, that's only going to be credited once a month. And so what's going to happen there is that every time you do a reserve calculation, you're going to have to make an estimate of what you think you're going to pay out all the customers. Now, make sure all of your estimates are reasonable and conservative. You also have to be able to demonstrate how you arrived at the estimate. And finally, you have to be consistent. You can't just change the way you do this estimate every time you do a reserve calculation. So that's it for this webcast. If you have any questions or you have any comments, email or give me a contact. LinkedIn. Thanks for joining.